Like
Got a YouTube channel? No. TikTok is no. No. Falelatai. My name is SEPELINI Mua'AU. I work for Victoria University as an equity support tutor, looking after 100 level Māori and Pacifica students. But also I consider myself an artist. So recently as an actor in theatre, but also with a background in writing, playwriting specifically. Definitely my earliest experiences of performance were in church. So obviously there's the annual White Sunday or Lokomaiki. That's where we, as young kids, were taught we were forced, no jokes, we were, put through rigorous tests, just to recite different lines from the Bible, and the older you got, the more advanced the performance was. More recently, and especially with the work that I have been doing, there are just people that I look to that sort of inspired me, or gave me, it's a weird thing, but gave me confidence and to speak, or to gave me the space to talk in certain situations where growing up that necessarily hasn't been or hasn't always been the case. And that was something new for me, was and I didn't even know that I not necessarily needed it, wanted it, but I didn't know that I needed that. It was so it was in certain situations where maybe your voice isn't being heard or anything, and you don't realize it's not being heard until someone speaks up and says, hey, what about this and what about that? And then in your mind you're like, oh wow, yeah, I didn't know I felt like that, but now I do. And so for me, more recently, that kind of voice and those types of people are people that I'm like, man, I have time for you. I was just a yes person, gigs coming up, I don't have anything, yes. Gigs coming up, I don't have anything, yes. My learnings have come as they've happened. So when I speak to the not having a voice in certain spaces, that's come from a place of, I went through a project, or I went through a piece that I felt that, and I didn't have that. I never really had an expectation ideally, I would be like, oh yeah, I'll just get into some shows, and then I'll jump into some films, and I'll be getting money, and then I'll probably, that's the ideal situation, and that's always as a young actor, oh yeah, I just want to do this and do this. I guess the more you grow, you realize what you enjoy more, and I think for me, currently, I'm enjoying the process more. So I feel like I've always been a product guy, oh yeah, I want the end product, it's got to be awesome, it's got to be this, it's got to be this. And then realizing, man, if the process isn't good here for you, then the product, no matter how good the product is, you're going to be carrying that through it all and into the next. And how do I see myself in this project, and what kind of growth can I get out of it? Which is it's a real privilege to have that sort of thinking, to be like, oh yeah, I'm not just doing it for the money. The money would be great if there was more money in the industry. In terms of money, how am I surviving? I think I'm very fortunate that I have work here at Victoria, and I'm blessed because this role is part-time, so which allows me the freedom to explore other avenues of income. There are definitely struggling artists, especially right now with everything that's happening. I'm one of the fortunate ones that have work that's sustained throughout this period, and I'm not worrying about what's next. Obviously, a lot of my theatre work was cancelled as soon as, but I've got something. It could be a lot worse.